On a day that began like any other, a routine flight ended in tragedy. PSA Airlines flight AA 5342, a Bombardier CRJ 900, took off from Wichita, Kansas, on its way to Reagan National Airport. The flight was full of passengers eager to reach their destination. Families were headed on vacation, business people were traveling for work, and some were simply returning home. None of them could have imagined the horror that awaited them in the skies over the nation's capital. Flight AA 5342 departed from Wichita, Dwight D. Eisenhower National Airport at 10 o'clock in the morning. The weather was clear, with blue skies and unlimited visibility. The pilots, Captain John Smith and First Officer William Jones, were both experienced aviators with thousands of flight hours. Captain Smith, a veteran pilot with 20 years of experience, was known for his calm demeanor and meticulous attention to detail. First Officer Jones, on the other hand, was a rising star in the company, eager to learn and prove himself. The takeoff was smooth, and the plane climbed steadily to its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. The passengers settled in for the 2.5-hour flight, unaware of the impending disaster. As Flight AA 5342 flew eastward, it passed over the heartland of America. The landscape below was a patchwork of fields, forests, and small towns. The flight crew kept in constant communication with air traffic control, receiving regular updates on weather conditions and other aircraft in the vicinity. The mood in the cockpit was relaxed, with the pilots chatting casually about their families and upcoming plans. The autopilot was engaged, and the plane maintained a steady course. The flight attendants began their in-flight service, offering drinks and snacks to the passengers. Everything seemed perfectly normal, but a sense of unease began to creep into the cabin. As Flight AA 5342 approached the Washington, D.C. area, the pilots were instructed to descend to 10,000 feet and prepare for landing at Reagan National Airport. The weather in Washington was clear and sunny, with a light breeze blowing from the south. The Potomac River glistened in the sunlight as the plane flew over the city. From their vantage point, the pilots could see many of the city's famous landmarks, including the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, and the White House. The nation's capital was bustling with activity. Tourists flocked to the National Mall, lawmakers debated on Capitol Hill, and residents went about their daily lives. It was a typical day in Washington, D.C., but for the passengers and crew of Flight AA 5342, it was about to become anything but. At the same time that Flight AA 5342 was making its final approach to Reagan National Airport, a United States Army Black Hawk helicopter was on a training mission over the Potomac River. The helicopter, carrying 5 experienced soldiers, was performing routine maneuvers as part of its training exercise. The crew was highly skilled, having flown numerous missions together. The helicopter had taken off from Fort Belvoir, a nearby military base, and was scheduled to return there after completing its mission. The crew was in high spirits, confident in their abilities and enjoying the camaraderie of flying together. Section 6. The skies above. As both aircraft approached the same airspace, air traffic controllers at Reagan National Airport worked diligently to maintain separation between them. The controllers were responsible for monitoring the movement of dozens of aircraft in the busy airspace around the nation's capital, and they relied on sophisticated radar systems and communication equipment to do their jobs. However, a critical miscommunication occurred. Due to a technical glitch in the radar system, the controller responsible for Flight AA 5342's descent path inadvertently vectored the plane directly into the path of the Black Hawk helicopter. Section 7. Impact. At approximately 11:53 a.m., the unthinkable happened. Flight AA 5342, descending rapidly towards Reagan National Airport, collided with the Black Hawk helicopter at an altitude of 2,500 feet. The impact was catastrophic. The sound of the collision was deafening, a horrific screech of metal against metal that echoed through the skies over Washington, D.C. The plane, its fuselage torn open by the force of the impact, went into an uncontrollable spin. Debris rained down on the city below, sending shockwaves through the streets and causing widespread panic. Section 8. Aftermath. In the immediate aftermath of the collision, chaos reigned. Emergency services rushed to the scene, but their efforts were hampered by the widespread debris field and the chaotic scene. The crash site was a gruesome spectacle of twisted metal and shattered lives. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, immediately launched an investigation into the cause of the crash. Investigators would spend months, if not years, piecing together the events that led to the tragedy, examining every aspect of the flight, from the pilot's actions to the air traffic control procedures. Section 9. A Nation Mourns. The crash of PSA Airlines flight AA 5342 sent shockwaves across the nation. The loss of life was staggering, with no survivors from either aircraft. The nation mourned the victims, offering condolences to their families and grappling with the enormity of the tragedy. The crash served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of safety in air travel. It also highlighted the critical role that air traffic controllers play in ensuring the safe operation of the nation's airspace.